Drones are no longer just tools for aerial photography. Across Guyana, they are being used to map communities, monitor crops, inspect infrastructure, support environmental management, and collect critical data faster than ever before. But as the technology expands, so too do the questions about regulation, privacy, safety, and whether Guyana's laws are keeping pace with innovation. This week on Sources, we sit down with Brian Smith, founder of Dragonfly Solutions Group Inc., one of Guyana's leading drone and geospatial technology companies. We'll examine how drone technology is transforming industries, the challenges facing operators, the gaps in regulation, and what it will take for Guyana to become a regional leader in this rapidly evolving sector. I'm Svetlana Marshall, and this is Sources. Good evening and welcome to Sources. I'm your host, Svetlana Marshall. Tonight we'll be placing the spotlight on Dragonfly Solutions, a Guyanese company at the forefront of drone technology, geospatial mapping, and aerial data services. To discuss this very important topic, and the company is the founder, Brian Smith. Brian, welcome to Sources.
Thank you for having me, Svetlana. How are you doing today?
I'm well. And you?
Not too bad.
Good to hear, good to hear. For persons looking at the program, who really is Brian Smith? We know that you have this very popular company now, and almost a household name. But tell us, who is Brian Smith?
All right. Brian Smith is just a guy who loves drones. I'm a father, a husband, and I live in Georgetown. Actually, I'm not someone who's from the technology space. My first degree is in international relations. I was a part of public service. I like public service. I used to be a teacher, teaching physical education. I even at one time was on the officer cadet course. So I've had a very wide experience as I grew up. I come from the village of Buxton on the east coast of Demerara, and was raised essentially by my grandparents. Went to school in Georgetown, and I think Guyanese.
Now, during the pandemic, you started, in a sense, playing around with drones. Tell me the story behind that, how you got involved with drones.
Great. So during the pandemic was a time when there was a lot of uncertainty. We were shut indoors, we couldn't move around.
Yeah.
And at that time, I kind of was moving away or moving out of public service. And I found the interest in the drones. Actually, my wife bought a drone from a friend of ours because I was just looking at YouTube videos a lot about drones and what they can do. I think it was a farmer was stuck overseas. He couldn't come to Guyana because of the vaccine. And he asked me to take pictures of his farm because they had to do work on the farm because farming has particular timelines when you have to get things done. So I took the pictures, I got paid for it. I was like, okay, I can earn money from this. And basically it grew in tandem with Guyana's development because just as we came out of the pandemic, the real estate sector started to increase as a result of the oil and gas production expanding. So the real estate market started asking for photographs. We want photographs of properties and how close they are to other significant things, bridges, new development of road, and other expanses of land, more important places such as supermarkets and these types of things. I quickly, however, realized that I was not the only person with a drone, and many other persons started to join the drone photography space. One of the greatest things that we did during that photography period is being the local organizing company that was able to pull off the rebrand of One Communications. The first drone show in Guyana actually was coordinated with Lunalight and Dragonfly. So cinematography is where I first started to grow the business. We were a part of the Caribbean Airlines Welcome Home production, and we grew steadily. However, the market became saturated. There were many persons who came with little drones and were doing photography and videography as well. And I recognized very early that I needed to start differentiating myself into a more technical space. Again, fortunately for me, the market demanded at that time support for engineers and surveyors who were doing road construction, the expansion of our highways, which the first phase was expanding existing roads, but the second phase went into going into green fields, which basically are areas that are virgin, basically lots of bush, lots of snakes, lots of swamps. And the technology of drones is used to support the surveyor because it allows them to reduce their risk in going into the field and reduce the amount of time they spend picking up points and data points. So with that expansion, with that demand for engineering and surveying solutions, we were able to move into that space at a more technical level, using LiDAR technology, basically using light to measure the height of surfaces and being able to see through the leaves of vegetation to be able to get the surface of the earth.
Now, you make it sound so easy,
okay.
you know, but I'm assuming there must have been challenges. How was the startup process? You spoke about how you've moved from just simply taking photos to more engineering and insisting in that area. But what was the process like? You know, was it challenging? What were some of the issues you encountered? And how were you able to overcome them?
Well, firstly, the first challenge is cost, the cost for the drones. The drones that we first used when we bought the drone at that time was over $200,000 or something like that. And it took us some time to pay back that drone that we borrowed. Fortunately, we had someone who was just, excited to see us just build a business. So that was the first challenge, being able to get financing for a piece of technology that we take 100% of the risk because there's not insurance in Guyana for the actual hull of the drones. When you're doing commercial operations in Guyana for drones, you have to have something called third-party liability insurance, which is if the drone falls out of the sky and breaks somebody's windscreen or hurts you, I, the operator, must have enough money to be able to fix you. But the actual drone itself, if it's no longer functional, there is no insurance for that. Okay. So that's a risk we take as operators. Secondly, training. I mean, I'm now actually trying to establish, it's a sneak preview, establish an actual unmanned training school in Guyana because there's no formal area that you can go, no formal place you can go to learn about drones.
And you basically learn via YouTube?
The University of YouTube. When I started to get a little more technical in the LiDAR space, I actually took a flight to Miami to learn from all the established leaders in the commercial space to learn a bit more technical about LiDAR technology in the engineering space. But the majority of what I've learned is by spending countless hours on YouTube.
Nice. But you're telling me about the school that you intend to establish?
Yes. So I intend to actually create a school where we can learn or we can teach formally drone operations in Guyana. Because there's some challenges. I mean, from a client perspective, people see a drone and think it's a toy. It is not a toy. It's actually a very expensive piece of equipment that flies in the airspace as manned aircraft. I think we have a responsibility as operators in the professional, in the commercial space to teach people about safely operating drones, to support our regulatory agency, which is the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, in ensuring that the pilots, drone pilots, are operating in a manner that is safe, respects people's privacy, and also they can develop skills that are world class. Because drones are not only being used in the agriculture space, engineering space, and cinematography, drones are also being used in the oil and gas space, which is something that we've just recently signed a joint venture with a Canadian company called Altomax to use those drones offshore. That is critical infrastructure, that is expensive infrastructure, and that requires a lot of certification and skills that we have here in Guyana. What we just need is a pipeline or a pathway to get there. I mean, as we have the gas to shore plant coming on board, these type of facilities are considered high-risk industrial environments. And the best way to reduce risk is through using drones and using robotics. I usually tell people there's hardly any solution that I can think about in Guyana where a drone cannot be used.
Now, you just referenced to the partnership with Altomax, if I got the name correctly.
Correct.
Tell us a bit about that, how that partnership got started, And what are the benefits? One is what's in it for you, what's in it for them, and are you fronting?
I know that's a big issue these days. So that actually started about last year. If I can backpedal a little bit. In the commercial drone space, the challenges that we've had, in addition to financing, is also being able to make your business ready for expansion and investment. It's so new. It's easy for you to go to the banks and talk about a projection on traditional industries that we know about, whether it be chicken farming, poultry, whether it be construction, plumbing. We have sort of an understanding how you scale that business. But something like mine, like technology, is a little bit difficult. So as a part of that, I joined pitch competitions, won some, lost some. But importantly, the last one I went on was the Halcyon program, which I was the first guy I used to go on. And they took me to Colombia, which has a very robust ecosystem of entrepreneurs in the tech space. And that's where I started to create the investment readiness of my business. Whilst there, Altimax came to Guyana on a GCCI funded exchange, basically Canadian companies looking for opportunities in Guyana, how they can expand their reach. And they met with other drone companies, and they met with me. We had a voice call whilst I was in Colombia. And we immediately kicked it off because of the fact that they also invest in children in Canada, and I invest in the Drone Kids and Drone Girls program in Guyana. So I think that was one thing that set me apart from all the other drone companies that they were working in Guyana with or exploring. So we had the first conversation. They've returned about 3 times, with the last time actually having us sign this joint venture. Now, if you know, well, Altimax is not necessarily known in Guyana, but it's one of the only companies in the world, only drone companies in the world, that are certified in ISO standards for drone inspections of facilities, industrial facilities. They are one of the leaders in the world with the actual application of technology, operating in places called like the North Sea. The North Sea is a place that is just absolutely horrendous to work in. 70 feet waves, extreme cold. They're also ABS certified. These are all certifications that are critical and important in the oil and gas space. So they bring that certification to Guyana, and they fuse that certification with Dragonfly, which is a local commercial drone company that has done its due diligence, has its commercial permit to operate for the Civil Aviation Authority, continues to invest in kids and girls, teaching them about drones, GIS, and other careers in the drone space. And we were able now to essentially have a marriage of ideas and work together to ensure that we were able to provide a little girl in Arakaka, Oriala, Chinoing the opportunity to be certified at an international level to be able to fly a drone over an FPSO. And that will also transcend into being able to fly a drone at an international standard, certified at a gas ashore project, at industrial pipeline. So those are the type of technologies and opportunities they bring, whilst we are also able to facilitate training up our local pilots. I have a bias towards females. In my training, because I do offer training services as well, over the years, most of the persons I've trained over the years actually are females. They tend to spend more time paying more attention to detail and not, just thinking, okay, yeah, I can do this and fly the drones. So we were able to have this marriage of opportunity, have this marriage of compliance, and be now leaders in Guyana to be able to conduct this highly technical work at a high standard.
And so you'll be also, I know you spoke extensively about training with young people, children in fact, but you'll also be tapping into, for example, the oil industry, what it has to offer.
Absolutely. So this joint venture actually focuses on the oil and gas space, especially for FPSOs, but it also brings technology that we would not ordinarily have in other spaces. For example, using drones in underwater surveys, using drones in magnetometry in the mining space, using drones in the agriculture and surveying space, using larger drones with greater capabilities.
I heard you talk about the camps for young girls, and I must say that I heard the ad on the radio, and I was a bit disappointed with the age limit because my daughter's 11, and when I look at the age, but I understand that you need children, you're working with a certain amount, and then everybody would be flooding you. But tell us more about the camp, because I think it's really a great initiative, and I can't wait to have my daughter admitted into the program.
Yes, I can tell you we have been blessed and we have been afforded the opportunity to grow this camp from the time we started about 4 years ago. The first time we started, it was Ministry of Culture supported us, and now we've grown to a place whereas we have Republic Bank supporting us, our international partners, Altimax supporting us, American Drone Company supporting us, Ocean Aero, and we've been able to grow the camp's ability to reach, and we focus on girls and underserved areas. The age group is there because we want a little bit more of maturity, because again, I tell you, drones are expensive, but there's a safety component that we try to ensure we instill in that our young pilots understand very early. So we basically are trying to ensure that the net is spread wide so that our young girls, our young kids are able to see other career paths beyond being a doctor, not being disparaging to being a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, but you can now be a GIS. You can specialize in building information modeling. You can now support the technological development of the country, which is where we're going through drones, learning coding, and practically implementing coding. Sometimes you do coding and it's abstract, but they're in a real way can, from coding right away, move into being able to essentially program a robot dog to be able to inspect an industrial facility. That's right away relevant to a gas to shore facility, because you don't expect to have humans walking in an industrial facility like that. You want to have automated inspections, and this is exactly where our training takes them, basically.
So tell me a bit about remind me of the age range, the group of children you're targeting, and what are some of the success stories coming out of the camp?
Great. So it's between 12 to 16, and we're starting the program in a couple of days. Some of the successes that we've had thus far is we have essentially been able to inspire a new generation of pilots. Out of this program and the interest created from it, we've had interns. I currently have an intern who is on another internship at ExxonMobil.
Lovely.
I currently have an intern who currently works with the Environmental Protection Agency, all females. Okay. So it is because of this Drone Girls, Drone Kids program and the ecosystem we've created opportunities for other people to be able to be a part of new careers.
Now, you clearly have invested quite a lot into drone technology, and I like the fact that because there isn't formal training done here, you went abroad to seek professional training. But do you see that companies, I know you referenced that a farmer reached out to you and needed some photographs of the farm and so forth, but do you see a lot of companies buying into this technology? Is there any reluctance on their part? Or, everybody's just going along with it?
That's a tricky one.
Tell me.
So, yes and no. So, Guyana is a very traditional society, and we are averse to technology and trying new things. So, there has been pushback. I can tell you, I have had overseas clients contract me to get work done locally, and my local professionals doubting my work. However, when the overseas client would have checked the work, my work was correct. I have had situations where I've had pushback against agencies on, does the technology actually work? And having to have international companies call me and employ me to execute the technology, which I would have basically presented and said, hey, it actually does work. So it is a mixed approach. Fortunately for me, I understand what the challenge is. That's why I invest so much time in teaching and training. I have been afforded the opportunity to train many people in government agencies, private sector agencies, shore bases, in different and varying fields. So they can understand what the technology does, understanding how it operates, what it can and cannot do. I've been able to, fortunately, been allowed through the University of Guyana, because I did a master's in natural resources management, and I actually did my final thesis on technology adoption and drone adoption, and what were the challenges that caused persons to be averse to technology. So I understand very clearly there's a fear of the drones taking over somebody's job, which I tell them it's not. I'm helping you. I'm helping you as a surveyor from having to go through the risk of having to deal with them barrier in them old cave fields. I understand the issues of how do we validate that your data is accurate. And I can show you, I can QA/QC and validate the accuracy of our data. So I understand what the challenges are, and that's why I invest so much time. 50% of my time is spent in teaching and sharing.
You're building awareness.
I have, and the other time I spend actually working. I know my wife might not be too happy, because that means that the resources might be not as much as it could be. But I spend a lot of time teaching and raising that awareness, so people can understand the industry and appreciate what I do and what the industry can be.
Now, you have publicly supported regulation and compliance.
Yes.
Do you believe that Guyana's current drone regulations strike the right balance between safety and innovation?
I think the current regulations are good for the current environment. Technology is something that always develops. I bought a drone last year for about thousands of US dollars, and by this year it's obsolete. So the technology increases and the technology advances, and as such, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging for regulation to keep up to speed. Fortunately, I keep a very good relationship with the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, so we're always engaging. If I see something new, I will just send a memo. Hey, I see this new. Currently, the conversation is about extended visual line of sight operations and beyond visual line of sight operations. What are those? You see medical deliveries happening. The regulation currently requires you to always ensure you have line of sight of your drone.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be doing deliveries, medical deliveries, you'll have to be beyond visual line of sight. So currently the Director General works very closely in ensuring that these operations are done and they're done in compliance with the laws. Currently there is a project happening with IDB with the medical deliveries supporting the Ministry of Health. But what you will see happening over time, more such operations. People asked me up to early this week about delivering items in the interior and how possible it is. So we work very closely. The last consultation we had on Beyond Visual Line of Sight, we were there giving our comments and talking about the type of equipment that is possible, that can be used, ensuring that whatever drone is flying beyond visual line of sight must have ADS-B out, ADS-B in, which basically means that an aircraft can see us and we can see the aircraft when we're flying, which is the most important thing because we're flying within manned airspace, and creating corridors where we select basically highways in the air that our drones would be able to operate in at all times. So we always have that separation and the safety. So we have a very good relationship with them. I'm sure there's another conversation coming up on updating those laws again, which we'll be a part of, and we always advance safe operations. We always engage with the Civil Aviation Authority and ensure that all of our operations are compliant. And that's why we're very confident with how the regulations are.
So you see the Civil Aviation Authority as receptive to your recommendations?
Yes, they're partners in development of the industry. I mean, they're obviously focused on manned aircraft, but because of the good relationship that they've created or that we have with them, we're very comfortable with how the regulation is currently, and there's always space for improvement.
What improvements? You spoke about, you've always emphasized safety, but what are some of the key gaps within the legal framework?
I would say more, it's not necessarily a gap, but it's more of an execution. So for example, sometimes it becomes difficult as a commercial operator to execute work because of the time it might take to turn around for approvals. So that usually is a little humbug. Remember, with all development that's going on in Guyana, you have international investors who will come in for just a week or 2 days. I may need to have a survey done for a proposed plan or an updated survey done. Sometimes to get those permissions takes a little while.
Yeah, so
takes about 2 weeks, takes longer. Currently, what exists is that the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority indicates that you are not supposed to fly at night. So night flying is not permitted.
Okay.
Right? If you have an interest in doing a night flight, you have to write and ask for a one-off approval. Now, we have drone shows happening.
I was just about to ask.
Drone shows happening at night. And I rather suspect that as we grow, develop, and we have more landmark pieces of architecture, like the new Wisma Bridge, just like the Barjadu Demerara Bridge, the new Berbice Bridge, we will want to have more drone shows.
Of course.
So and then you have people have their private celebrations. You have all these concerts happening, mega concerts. You have cricket that will be played at night. So night flying is something that we need to consider. How do we approach it? I do believe that for operations to happen at night, there must be certain safeguards. Either you must have visible markings that are reflective on your drone, either you have a parachute attached to your drone. But the conversation definitely needs to start moving towards how are we going to handle all those flights at night that are going to start happening.
So in a sense, you're advocating for a trusted operator model, right?
That is it. That is
With faster
exactly
approval.
it.
But the question
Correct.
is, and I know you touched on it a bit, but I would still like you to address it, the issue of not compromising safety.
Correct. Yes, safety must be paramount. Again, that fortunately for us, we've been able to prioritize safety in our operations. We have had last year 0 lost time as a result of any accident. We have now entered a partnership which gives us even greater safety compliance, because now with this joint venture, our documentation process becomes stronger. Our actual internal safety mechanisms have to become tighter to be able to ensure we satisfy the contracts with oil and gas operators. So safety is paramount. We fly with manned aircraft. I believe that, especially in partnership with us commercial operators, once we create an audited annual list of trusted operators, I mean, it's done in other industries, then we know that once application comes from Dragonfly, we know this operator, we know what they do, we know they follow the rules, and we can also implement a sort of a online system where I can just send quickly through an app or through some sort of interface. This is the request, this is the location, these are my coordinates, this is the pilot I'm going to be operating, this is the instrument I'm going to be using, and we get that faster approval. So I believe that that's the model to go. New operators should have a little bit more scrutiny because obviously they're newer.
Yeah.
It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You gotta get on your training wheels first. You gotta get a certain amount of hours before you're able to now move into the trusted operator space. I think the civil aviation can't do it alone, but we must partner with commercial operators. And as we work together to develop that trusted operator list, then we can ensure we have a safe airspace, and also we ensure that the business side of it is able to grow, because you don't want to have tight regulations, so tight that business is not allowed to grow in these new careers. Because I'm spending all this time training new drone girls, training new drone kids, and then it's difficult for them to actually use all these skills and deploy efficient methods in surveying, in inspections in Guyana.
Now, you've spoken about safety, and of course this is something that the authority, Civil Aviation Authority, has spoken about as well.
Yeah.
But there have been reports and concerns by the authority of unauthorized drone activity. Do you think that the Civil Aviation Authority is equipped to really have a full I'm trying to find the right word, but to be able to assess or to determine whether there's illegal drone activity happening, and what is the risks, the risk attached to that? You go and you don't have the permit to do so, but you go and fly any which way.
So I can speak on behalf of Civil Aviation Authority
about their
capacity to interdict or to identify errant operators. I am sure that they're doing the best that they can, and I'm sure that they're deploying all resources as possible to be able to ensure that we have a safe airspace. I can't speak to that.
But do you believe this to be a major issue, or it's a non-issue, or this is something that I am making up?
It is an issue. I do agree there is a challenge. I mean, I can tell you personal experiences. I went to the opening of the Barajani Damara Harbor Bridge. People were calling me, Brian, are you flying? And I said, no, I'm not flying. I don't have permission to fly after 6.
Yeah.
I have not applied for permission to fly after 6. And I would not be out there flying. I'm there to join all Guyanese in witnessing the moment. I do see drone footage, which, in my opinion, the untrained eye is above 150 meters, which is what the regulation stipulates is as high as you can go without any other extended permissions. I do see, and I see things on social media, I do see night shots on social media. I'm like,
Did they get approval?
was this approved? So I am concerned about it, especially given the fact that the space in which I work in requires me to ensure I'm always compliant. There are lots of risks and there are lots of issues that you get when you're not compliant. I can tell you of many instances of pilots who just have a drone and go and fly a site and then they crash into infrastructure, a crane or something, just because they didn't know how high the crane was. I can tell you of instances too of pilots who just took an aircraft, go to a shore base and they want to film because it looks nice, but then they're stopped and told they can't fly because this is a privacy concern. This is somebody's private property that you're flying on. And I can tell you of situations where pilots would have gotten a drone, applied for a contract, got through the contract, and couldn't fly because they didn't have a permit. Because what we see happening now is that there's greater awareness about the need for a permit to be able to execute certain high-value projects. So I do see some of the challenges. I do see some of the issues. I do believe that operators and regulators must work together to be able to handle these issues, because something might just be out of ignorance. Somebody just might not know. Your auntie go and bring a DJI Mini 4 for you in your suitcase. She didn't go to customs with it. It passed through, and you're flying it, and you didn't know. You're not supposed to fly 5 nautical miles from the airport. You're not supposed to be flying that airspace without getting authorization. You're not declaring your drone at the airport. Somebody, what's a little drone? It could fit in my hand. You gotta get a letter of importation from the Civil Aviation Authority.
What about the drones being sold in the stores? Because at Christmas, we were seriously considering getting one.
the Chinese drone. So, in my opinion, it's a separate category.
Oh, okay.
Those drones are flimsy. If I carry it up to 50 meters and a high breeze catch it coming out of the sky.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not too worried about those.
Right.
I'm talking about more what we call prosumer drones. The Mini 5s, the Mavic 3s, the Wing Trus, the M350s. As they get a little higher in their size, those are the ones I'm more concerned about. The little ones, I don't think that those should be regulated as much, especially if you want to have persons actually practicing. Because there's a barrier to entry because they cost these drones. And to get youngsters into this sector, you want them to be able to afford the drones. Yeah. So the Chinese drones, I don't have a problem with in principle. But I don't know what the Civil Aviation has to say about that and customs, right? But for me, those drones are quite fine. But the risks that also you have, for example, we had the issue of the capybara going across the airstrip. Years ago, DJI had a block on the drones that you could not take off from the runway. After the entire geopolitical issues with the US and China, they removed that block. So anybody with a DJI drone can go on an airstrip once you have the updated software and you can take off. You can see why that is a problem. If an aircraft is coming down and there's a drone in its way, that's a challenge. So being aware of what you can and cannot do could save lives. And that's why we invest so much time in educating, in sharing information, in advocating for a greater safety culture in the drone space. So that we ensure that all operations are done, whether it be by us or any other operation, in a standard that ensures we all are able to be comfortable with. I'd like to see more training programs done, well, like ours, to train more persons in the proper use of drones, maintaining your drone, not just flying and, the batteries are very volatile. Storing your batteries correctly so they don't explode on you, cleaning your drone and make sure they're maintained and sure you inspect them before every single flight. There is a rigor and a process into drone operations that people don't do. But we teach this all the time.
The other thing is the issue of privacy, and I know that you mentioned it just now. How do you strike a balance? Yes, there's commercial benefits from this, flying a drone and operating it in the right way. But then persons have privacy concerns, and like you said, you touched on the issue of safety, but more so privacy. How do we strike a balance?
I mean, when I do any operation, and this is why sometimes I have some pushback from clients because they're like, I want a drone shot today, tomorrow. I usually tell them I can't do that. For me to conduct any drone operation, whether it be for cinematography, agriculture, engineering and survey, supporting a surveyor, what I do first is what's called a reconnaissance. See where it is.
Okay.
Check it on the map. What's closest to your space, closest important building, is there a government building, is there the private residence? Then when I'm doing my operations, I plan by going to the person. So if I could call before, or if I can go there and see somebody say, hey, my name is Brian Smith. I have all my visibility. I'm fully visible. I have all my branding. And I give them my call card. I tell them, this is what I'm doing here. This is what is the intention. I'll be flying maybe directly in your house or a little bit away from your house, but you will see a drone flying around. Do not be alarmed.
Okay.
If you have any concerns, you can let me know and I can share that with the client, but I will stop the operation. I can tell you, I have never, in my years of flying, this is gonna be 6 years of flying, had a person come to me and tell me, don't fly. I have, however, had persons come and say, you know what, sir, I appreciate you coming and telling me this and letting me know what you're doing, because others have come before and have flown here and I didn't know what's going on.
Exactly.
So that's one of the ways in which we build public trust in ensuring that they are aware of the privacy concerns. And as far as possible, even some people ask me for the footage. And I'm like, I'll talk to the client if they want to give you the footage, all right? Or they might ask to take a picture of my house. I get those requests as well. But just build that rapport with the client, not the client, but
those in the community.
Those who will be affected by the operation. So they understand not to be afraid of the operation, and we're doing this operation responsibly. So that's how I deal with the privacy concerns.
What would you say is the single biggest obstacle facing professional drone operators in Ghana? Is it an issue of regulation, and we touched on that? Is it financing, insurance, training, technology costs, or public perception?
So I would say two things: the insurance and the cost of equipment. All right. When you start going into the professional drone space, you're talking about $25,000 US, $5-6 million for the drone, and you don't have hull insurance. That is, if that drone crashes, you take 100% of the risk in replacing it. So that can limit your ability to expand. So I see that as a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Especially when you go into oil and gas, the price even gets higher as you deal with larger payloads, more specialized payloads. And I can understand where the challenge is, like a car. For you to be able to drive a car, you need to get a license to show you're competent. So I think as drone operators and the regulators, we got to work together more closely to ensure we have a sort of a licensing so that we can be able to say, hey, for this person to operate this piece of equipment, they have these minimum standards of safe operations. So they're not likely to crash the drone. And that will give the insurance companies a bit more comfort to be able to insure the actual drone, because they know, all right, normally this person don't crash a drone, or they have the competency not to crash a drone, and as such we can insure the drone for them.
So the permit is not sufficient to offer that kind of assurance?
No, it's not. The permit permits you to fly in Guyana's airspace.
Okay.
All right.
But a license would be
a license
to say that you're capable.
Good. To get a license, correct. You remember, to get a license, you got to go through a test. You got to go and do your theoretical and your practical. So we don't currently do that here. A lot of it is self-taught, and you basically self-taught how to fly a drone. So as we work together as operators and regulators, and we create that licensing pathway, where, for example, trusted lists of persons can train new entrants, and the civil aviation can become to like, hey, these persons come with a certificate from Dragonfly. They have been able to secure 100 hours, flight hours on this aircraft, and as such, we'll give them a license to be able to fly Guyana's airspace on this aircraft. It's done around the world. It's done in the UK, it's done in the US, in Canada. It's done. So it's just a matter of us aligning to ensure that we're able to do that in Guyana.
And you've had, of course, discussion on this issue with both the Civil Aviation Authority and maybe the insurance companies?
I've had this conversation with insurance companies. I've had the conversation with Civil Aviation Authority. So I think this is an active discussion that's happening, especially given Guyana's development and that more drones are coming to the country. There'll be more pressures for permits and more requests for permits. So I'm sure this is an active discussion that is happening, and I'll be happy to see it come to some sort of conclusion in a very short time.
Closing remarks.
In closing, what can I say? You know, the drone space is a very exciting place to be. When I started this, I had no idea about drones, self-taught about drones, and it has been rewarding and exciting. Seeing children, when you're in the field, come up to you and ask you, Uncle, what's this? And be excited by the blades, you know, really makes you feel so awesome being able to teach them this technology. The benefits and the savings that I've been able to give clients, you know, clients have been able to save thousands of dollars, US dollars, on acreage because we've been able to support surveys and give them more accurate data. We've been able to be a part of major infrastructure projects in Guyana and continue to be a part of major infrastructure projects, the largest mine, the Berbice expansion road, and now preparing for other major projects. Being able to be a part of the first drone show in Guyana, setting that standard. The drone space is a whole new world, and I have been nothing but excited to be a part of it, and even more excited to share about it. And, you know, show, especially the children, what more is possible other than traditional careers. I would love one day for to be able to say, hey, this guy is from Puerto Rico, never had an idea about drones, but here he is inspecting the FPSO offshore. Hey, this girl is from Oriala, never had an experience in drones before, but she's using drones to check the hulls of the FPSOs to ensure the rivets are firm and there are no cracks. Hey, this guy is from Lethem, never saw a drone before in his life, but here he is using a drone in a confined space to inspect underwater utilities. Hey, this guy is from Arakaco, never knew anything about drones, but here he is through the Dragonfly drone network being able to execute drone shows in Guyana. That for me would be my greatest joy.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for viewing this edition of Sources. I've been your host, Svetlana Marshall. Do join us same time, same place next week.